Hello, everybody. Welcome to a new episode of My Data Guest. Today we're doing something very, very special because this is our first Startup Spotlight episode. Here we have two startups and three experts in many different things. We will see how and what they do. And the idea is to provide literally the startups a spotlight to share what they're doing and to, on the other side, receive feedback about what they're actually doing right now within the domain they're working in. Lando, first of all, thanks for being here and feel free to give a short introduction about you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Alessandro. Thank you very much for having me. My name is Lando Barbagli. Now I live in Florence, Italy. I spent roughly 20 years of my life in the US, between Los Angeles and New York City. I graduated at UCLA with an MBA, and the intention was coming back home real quick after my graduation, but I ended up staying there again, roughly 20 years. And I work in finance for the entertainment industry. And then roughly 2008, 2009, my passion went toward the tech industry. And with a tech co-founder, his name was Tim in Austin, Texas. We ended up building a technology called Showbot that was sold to a larger group in the San Francisco Bay called Peel Inc. And then in 2015, 2016, was offered to move to San Francisco. By then I was living in Los Angeles to help the migration of the software, but I was really homesick and I decided to pack my stuff and come back here in Florence.
Lisa, please. First of all, thanks for being here. I hope the time zone is not a problem for you. Yeah.
It's all right. Hi, I'm Lisa Faulkson. Thanks for having me, Alessandro. I'm great friends with your co-founder of this podcast, Rosaria. I worked in speech and NLU sort of systems since the early 2000s, studied it in grad school, worked at what was then a startup called Nuance, so sort of at the forefront of voice and AI systems, most recently at Amazon launching Alexa Plus, and I focus on sort of design, prototyping, and refining systems that use natural language and speech.
Thank you, Lisa. Exciting. All right, let's move to the two stars of this episode, I would say. Evelina, if you want to quickly introduce yourself.
Sure. Hello, everyone. I'm Evelina Curtis. I have PhD in neuroscience, and after I left academia, I started to work with startups and focused on artificial intelligence, which is kind of still inspired by neuroscience. And today I'm working as a strategic advisor at Final Spark, which is a startup in Switzerland, which is trying to build computers from living neurons. So this is actually intersection of engineering, artificial intelligence, and neuroscience. This is new way of computing.
Thank you. Really looking forward to know more about this. Bali, last but not least, please.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me, Alessandro. Nice to meet you. My name is Wally Khan. I live in Dallas, Texas. I've spent all my life in the U.S., and I come from a company called Nime, which is where Rosaria used to work. That's how I know her. I was at Nime for 5 years. I used to lead the key accounts kind of selling team to selling to some of Nime's larger customers. I was at Oracle before that, and then I have my master's in biomedical engineering and an undergrad in chemistry. But I do sales and sales-related type software now in my startup. It's called Agentech. I'm the founder, and we're trying to make sales much, much, much more efficient.
The concept here is really simple. We will start with Evelina. She will present what she's doing, and then Lisa, Lando, and also Ali, if he wants, and myself, we will try to provide a feedback and maybe understand better what she's doing. Please, Evelina, the stage is yours.
So I will talk very shortly about Final Spark and what we are doing. So Final Spark is a Swiss startup which was founded by Fred and Martin. These are two entrepreneurs who are engineers. They have PhDs in signal processing, and they had a dream, like many engineers, to build thinking machine. So that was long before LLMs, and that was long before actually we had already something which is resembling thinking very convincingly, and many engineers dream about this. And they, of course, initially started with digital technologies because they are excellent at this. They have already some successful projects, other companies in digital world. And they started digital, but they realized it costs a lot of money to build better AI in digital. And they realized this is not a good approach for a startup, because if you want to be a startup, you have to be really original and you must figure out something different, something innovative, something what cannot be just done with a lot of money and a scale, but more innovative. So they realized that actually the most efficient unit for processing information is living neuron. And our first employee, who is engineer, he actually had some experience working with Professor Markram, which is a very famous neuroscientist also in Switzerland. And he had a chance to work with living neurons in his lab. So the founders were thinking, okay, maybe let's try living neurons for building new type of computer, which will use much less energy than silicon, so it will also cost less. And indeed, such a project is much cheaper, but it needs innovative approach. So that's perfect for startup, let's say. And what we have today, we have built a laboratory which is available remotely for anyone in the world for research in biocomputing. So biocomputing is the field where we try to build this living computer. And we are also, of course, focused on our own R&D. We are working on our prototype on how to make computation, how to process information using living neurons. And yes, and that's our journey. We also get popular on social media because the topic is, I think, sparking imagination, because we are using living human neurons. So I think it always creates some interest. And the main rationale, at least for now, how we see this is that we want to reduce the usage of energy by artificial intelligence. Neurons are 1 million times more energy efficient than digital, so this would be huge disruption of the market. One maybe disadvantage of this project is that we estimate to build computer in 10 years. So it's very long-term project. However, in deep tech, I think it's normal, because also when you look at quantum computing, it takes many years to build, because when you want to build something totally different, change the paradigm, then it takes time. And that's a normal. Of course, it's also a challenge, but I think it's not surprising. So that's our project in a nutshell. I can tell you more, or if you have any questions, we can start with the discussion.
You were trying to compare it to quantum computing. Of course, it's taking time for quantum computing to see something in our house that we can use. Definitely. But we do have something. Quantum computing technologies started with something for the future, but that can already be, it cannot be exploited today, but it exists. And we have already all the mathematical proofs for saying this will work one day under the right constraints. So what do you think about this? You think that you are at that stage? Because otherwise, the comparison with quantum computing, I think it's tough. I don't know. What do you think?
I think definitely we do, because actually the proof exists since a very long time. Because the proof is a human brain for the fact that neurons can process information. So there is absolutely no doubt about this. The question is how to do this outside the brain. So you have to learn how to process, how to actually program neurons. So we have to learn how they exactly encode information. And that's today the biggest challenge. So there are a lot of technicalities on how to do this. But the question whether it can be done, I think is beyond doubt, given that we already see that neurons can process information. The best proof is that we talk today. And that's because our neurons are processing.
What you're doing is fascinating, quite difficult even to understand or imagine. But for what I understood, I mean, you're turning teeny lab-grown mini brains into computer that people can use over the internet, right? I'm thinking from a go-to-market point of view, do you see yourself mainly as a research platform for university, or do you already have a clear commercial target beyond academia?
Oh, yes, absolutely. The reason why we are a research platform is because this is such an early stage that it's only research, of course, because we cannot really use today neurons as a computer. You can only do this as a research project to actually study how neurons process signals, which is very basic for now. It's like you would look just on the logic gates in the computer. So the reason why it's research platform is because it's too early in the development. But our intention are very much commercial, because we want to, of course, I mean, there is of course no sense to do this only for research. We want to build real computers which will use less energy, so we'll be very competitive for the market for artificial intelligence.
Thank you. Congrats.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, I have a question also. Are there any sort of ethical, I guess, considerations to using human neurons as far as for commercial purposes like this versus something that's fabricated?
Actually, in this project, we cannot use something fabricated, fake, because the whole point is to use living neurons. And actually, the whole point of the project is that we cannot really build artificially something as perfect as a living neuron.
Mhm.
All the models,
Right.
which are theoretical or digital, they are never as perfect, as
Right.
complex like real cells. And yes, actually, the process of using living cells for research, for any kind of research you want, exploratory, is already quite established because it's used all over the world. You can buy today, you can buy stem cells, which you can obtain from
Mhm.
human skin. And from these stem cells, you can produce any cells you want, including neurons. So this is already commercial product, this stem
Okay.
cells. So I think it's kind of sorted that we can
It's
use
something
it.
that's there's an
Yes,
existing model for it. Okay.
absolutely. However, of course, you are right, because we also have the future. So when we build computer, living computer, this is new type of computer, and I think this raises questions. Like every new technology, is we didn't have it before. So if we have something new, we have new questions, and we actually reach out to philosophers to help us to answer this ethics side. This general question: is it good? Is it okay? What we should do to avoid maybe negative impact, things like that. So we want to be prepared, because it's normal, I think, in every technology, also digital, that new things bring new questions, and we want to also help to answer them so that we are prepared for the future.
Yeah, it sounds like you're getting ahead of the potential questions that might be brought up by talking to philosophers. Okay, great. Thank you.
I'm curious, is it really energy efficiency that's like the main play, or is there a much larger scope of things that could be applied? I get that maybe neurons might be more energy efficient, but a neuron also is like self-healing relative to, silicon, right? Is there other stuff that might be possible, or larger kind of more, or add more value besides just, hey, we're building human neurons as computers and they're more energy efficient?
Well, for the moment, we focus on this, on energy efficiency. But yes, you are right. It is new material. So actually, new material can bring new opportunities always. Also, when you talk about quantum, so it's always like that, I think. And I think we have some ideas how these computers could be superior to digital, but I cannot really say too much yet because we are still working on this. This is more like speculation, but we are working on some inspirations from neuroscience. For now, the surest argument we have is energy efficiency, but yes, in the future, maybe we can think about other advantages, what living neurons could do, what computers cannot do at all.
Yeah, and maybe just kind of to add to it, my brother is actually a neurosurgeon, and so a lot of times he discussed things, and they have like all the deep brain stimulation type things, and they attach wires to neurons today. Maybe if there's many years down the line, can you not just replace those wires and something like that? But all sorts of stuff, it's really cool. And maybe just another question is, I think right now, the way I understand quantum, a lot of the challenges is maybe not necessarily on the encoding, but like the programming now. What challenges do you think you'd face from like a technology kind of interfacing type perspective besides just encoding data?
Yes, actually, coding is the biggest challenge, I think, because we don't know how neurons encode information. We
Yeah.
know a lot how they process spikes, which are electrical signals. They are changes in voltage in neuron. So we know quite a lot about this, but we don't know exactly what does it mean. So that means we cannot read the mind also. That's also because you can measure activity of the brain, but you cannot translate this to this signal, this raw signal, to some quality data. Like, for example, what is this about? What is processing exactly? And the same in vitro. So this is actually currently our biggest problem. Is our next milestone is learning in vitro. So how to make sure that we can teach something neurons in vitro so that they perform some specific task in a reproducible way. And this is difficult mainly because we don't know how neurons encode information. So we have to learn how to program them.
Yeah, I mean, it's really cool. I think, I feel like maybe everyone here is like, there's probably a million questions I want to ask without sounding like incompetent, but it's a very fascinating field. And it's just, I think there's probably more applications than not if this can work. And so really excited to see how it goes.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
my
you.
electrical engineering brain immediately goes towards like, what do you do first? An AND gate, and like, what's the logic function that you first try to program as a
Yes,
test?
yeah, we actually managed to store one bit of information. This is
Okay.
kind of like proof of concept, and maybe that's maybe the most simple thing we could do, because we just had two states of neurons and we were able to switch from one to another. So it's just for simplicity, it was good. However, neurons are working in totally different way than silicon, so they don't have logic gates. So actually, for the future, most probably, we shouldn't use this approach like with computers. So actually, this is also one of the key question. What is this maybe minimum unit for computation, which you could scale later, as it was logic gates in silicon, but in neurons for sure will be something different. We just are still searching for this.
How do you know if there are other competitors around? And if you do you have like an idea of how they're trying to approach this kind of field, which really looks into the future? And then I want to highlight what people said before. I mean, we do have a lot of questions, so we're really trying to pick the right questions from our brain. But I do have a lot of questions because this is fascinating. So what about competitors?
Yes, we do have competitors. Our biggest competitors is Koniku, Cortical Labs in Australia, and Koniku in US. And what are the difference? So actually, Koniku a little bit changed the direction because they decided to use neurons for some narrow application for smell detection. So that's a little bit change of the direction. But Cortical Labs has the same objective still as Final Spark. We both want to build living computers with living neurons as a processor. But we're different in some technicalities, which might make no difference for someone from the outside. So for example, they focus more on the monolayers. So these are 2D structure of neurons, while Final Spark focus on 3D structures of neurons because we believe they are better for computation. And the time, of course, will show who was right, who not. And we also may be differ in the approach because Final Spark believes a lot in the central bioserver, which will be available remotely. Actually, today our core lab is available for research, but in the future we imagine bioserver, which will be available like Amazon or any kind of other remote service, cloud service, which you will be able to rent, and it will cost less to use AI on bioserver than silicon. And Cortical Labs have a different approach because they launched a portable prototype, which you can buy and have at home even, or in your lab, actually rather, I think, more suitable in your lab. So yeah, there are some technical differences between us, but the main objective, living computer, is kind of the same.
Yeah, I was just wondering, what's the first repeatable paid use case you see on your platform? If there is one thing that people will pay for every month without hesitation from your platform.
Well, we already have this case because our lab is also available for commercial rent, and we have already companies which are renting the lab, so they pay actually monthly subscription for using the lab for a research purpose. So this we can consider a first paid case. Later, of course, that's not our final goal because commercialization of the laboratory is not really what we want to do. This is just a side effect. So the main objective is to have this bioserver, and we imagine that we can run AI models on living neurons instead of silicon. And we also believe that based on how human brain is working, this is still a speculation, but this is our assumption, is that generative AI will be a good case for living neurons because neurons can solve problems, create ideas with much less energy than silicon. So we imagine that actually we could use living neurons for running large language models, or maybe something else we will have in 10 years for a similar purpose, but it will use less energy than silicon. So this is, we imagine actually as a first maybe case for the real biocomputer. Serious case, yes.
Cool, thanks.
Maybe one more for me. So when you say like a lot less energy, I know you said like 1,000 times less. Is that just like comparing, or a million times less? Sorry. Is that comparing like one, on off, like one bit of just a neuron, or does that kind of take into account all the energy that's required to make and grow the neuron too?
No. It's more about processing, definitely here. So this is just about processing information. And this is based on the publications which are independent from our lab that people try to compare the human brain and the silicon. And for example, researchers say that if you would like to reproduce everything what happens in the human brain with the silicon, you would need small nuclear plant. So this kind of things. That's why it's more energy efficient. Don't talk about energy for lab running, but still we made some calculation actually based on our experience, and we still see that our lab, our bioserver would cost 10 times less than silicon server, including all the cost, of course, which is not only about processing information, but also, as you said, growing neurons. And it's not about energy, but any cost you need for making it possible. So yes, so it's still efficient.
Very cool. So, I mean, if no one else has, what do you feed the neurons? Like, what goes into keeping a neuron alive? Is it just...
So you keep neurons like every living cells. You keep in the medium in the lab. Medium is such a liquid which has every nutrients which the cells need, and it's normal thing. The same, like in our bodies, all the cells are fed because we have vessels, blood vessels. The blood is flowing through our bodies, and that's why we get oxygen and nutrients. And in the lab, you have to reproduce this. So you usually put them in the liquid, which has everything what they need.
Very cool. Thank you.
Thank you, Evelina, for sharing what you're doing and for being here today. I hope you received kind of feedback that could be actionable, but honestly, I think it was more a gift for us because what you're doing is really interesting, and thanks for sharing it. We know that you have to leave now, but thanks again. I hope to have you in another episode soon.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Matteo, you can continue with introduction. Thank you.
Thank you, Alessandro. So I got it short. It's 10 years that I am after startups. The idea was taking in inventors' ideas to the market. So as soon as I stepped out from the university, I have two degrees, one in business administration, the other one in management with minor in corporate finance. I joined the startup ecosystem and I started building startup. This was 2017. So in the last 10 years, I raised a few millions for a few startups in different domains, let it be digital or so software or hardware. And at the very beginning, I was not getting any equity and I was not investing. And from 2021 onwards, I started getting equity and investing in startups. Usually I take active roles in the startup I follow, unless it is just a sprint over 6 months to help them building the documents that are needed to raise funds. But in that specific case, I don't do anything actively in helping them raising funds. So my role is strategic and operational, and the growth of the company related to everything that is not related to the R&D and the product.
All right.
That's the long story short.
Thank you, Matteo. Thanks for being here. So, Wally, is your turn to present what you're doing. Once again, you can just talk or present some slides, show us the product. The stage is yours, and then get ready to receive some feedback or questions.
Sure. Yeah. Thanks, everyone. I'll show my pitch deck. So I have my slides. Let me know if you guys can see it. Yeah. Is this working?
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. So thanks for having me. Excited to be here. I'm not a design person. I've learned that, but so be easy on that part. But my name is Wally Khan. I'm with Agentic. I'm the founder of Agentic, and what we're doing is really trying to tackle and solve a problem that I used to face in my previous roles. And I used to lead a key accounts team selling, AI, ML, data science solutions to really big companies like P&G, Citibank, AMD. And I faced a lot of inefficiency within sales. Just to set the stage a little bit, there's a lot of over specialization in roles and tasks in sales, but you generally have pretty entry level, junior reps doing all the emailing, outbound, cold called, inbound leads to help you grow your top of funnel, get leads for sales. And that converts at like 2% if it's cold and like they're trying to find new people. And if someone says, hey, I do want to talk to you, that's 50% conversion into a discovery meeting or a first meeting with the prospect or customer. And that's where you have a little bit more senior reps who are getting involved and saying, is this a qualified opportunity? And if it is, usually that'll convert, 30% of the time. And you'll start selling is kind of what I say, at an opportunity where you're really figuring out, is this a match and is this product going to work at whatever customer? And if all things go well, you have now sold a deal and you have revenue. But surprisingly, and I think interestingly enough, about 70% of a company, any given company that says B2B, 70% of their revenue only comes from like the top 10% of reps. So kind of naturally what a company does is well, how do I copy and paste those top performers into everyone else? And I call this trickle down enablement, where you take your top performers, you stick them in meetings, you stick them in role play calls and coaching calls, and you try to recreate what they're doing and having them teach their junior reps. And this is kind of weird in a sense, because if you think about it, you probably want these people focused exclusively on selling because they're the ones who are doing great at it. And the other issue is they need deals, right? And that kind of comes from these more junior reps, so they do need enablement. So it's kind of this weird little problem where because your junior reps are the first touch, you need them to get better so that there is revenue eventually, but you also need the people who are really good at selling to focus on selling. And this kind of creates this weird paradigm of you're stuck in internal meetings, enablement stuff. And on average, across the 4.5 million B2B reps in the US, on average, 70% of any given rep's time is spent doing things other than talking to prospects or customers. I think that's wasted time because they're a sales rep. So any questions you guys can ask along the way? None? Make sense? All right. So in my experience, I would do a lot of this too. And I kind of really quickly figured out that your best reps are usually your most experienced reps. What if you could just kind of recreate them? If I could take all of their emails, their calendar meetings, every recorded piece of communication across their CRMs and Zoom meetings, and start to plug them into every single Zoom call. So that if my junior reps are on a call or whoever's on a call and they get a question or they need help, there's someone there to help them. And this is what your recreated rep might look like, or what we're creating for companies. And a question comes in, it's giving them all sorts of insights on how to handle working with their prospect or their customer. So a question comes in, this is just example questions, but it'll give them in real time an answer and kind of a source to say, hey, this is what you should do or what you should say to the prospect or customer. Now, the idea is you're going to win more, you're going to win quicker, and enable reps on the fly. So if you take a look at this little slide again, well, my top reps, they don't have to spend time enabling others because that kind of is going to get automated with the real-time coaching given to all reps. So your top reps, they get to focus on selling. Now, the other benefit to doing something like this is there's going to be a lot less wasted time because you can start to automate a lot of these tasks that the top reps and everyone was doing. And ultimately, you're going to get more revenue at the end of the day because now your best rep is in every single call. He's there in that email, that cold call, or she's there too, or in that discovery call. So even if you just increase your conversion rates a little bit, it's going to ultimately lead to more revenue at the top of that funnel, or it's the bottom of the funnel. The idea is you're going to win more and you're going to have to win quicker. You're going to win quicker and enable reps on the fly. So that's not all we're trying to do. We're also doing is, we really want to remove all the little inefficiencies I faced leading B2B sales teams. That's all the weird little automations around getting updates and not having to read Slack channels all the time, and also getting reports and customer feeds kind of automatically. I'll pause there. Any questions? You want me to keep going?
It's more related to numbers. When you showcase a problem and a solution that you built for this problem, usually what the audience like to see is concrete numbers. So we don't say we reduce time, we say we reduce 20% of time. So giving numbers to bake, what do you think? Do you have those numbers in the USPs and then later in the slides, or you didn't think about it?
Later. Yeah, we can have some numbers. It's interesting, usually when you talk to the maybe more seasoned investors like you, I think Matteo, they love the numbers. Kind of where, and I've spoken to a lot of the VCs and I've spoken to a lot of the angels. Angels like the scenarios a little bit more, is kind of just what I've come across, because maybe they don't understand B2B sales.
I'm talking about clients. No, I'm not talking about investors.
Right. Yes.
So I was talking about the USP. You were describing them. Hey guys, you have sales rep. 70% of the time of the sales rep go wasted.
Yeah.
And instead with my solution, you get to 0.
Yes.
That's very ambitious. And I hope you're gonna manage to do that. So I don't have any counter because I didn't see the solution working. So I'm totally fine. I trust you. Nevertheless, my suggestion is to adapt a scenario where you can really and narrow it down to the need of the decision makers. So they say, okay, that's the solution. This is what it does.
Yeah.
This is my ROI. And I mean, you're gonna have it later, probably. I mean, you mentioned it, so.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. So I actually tried a different approach on this slide. That's kind of what I was trying to frame. I mean, it's right now it's on average 6 to 9 months in onboarding a new rep, and so the idea is to reduce it down to 1. So as you're hiring new employees, your 6 to 9 month ramp time goes down to 1. It's an average deal cycle of 12 months for a new customer, so we want to reduce that. And then I don't have a concrete number because we just kicked off our first pilot on what we're going to objectively be able to accomplish. Does that answer your question? And I think the other one is it's 4,000 on average someone will spend on enablement.
That's good stuff, but it depends very much on who is your target. But I don't wanna steal the stage from the others. So if someone else has something to add or something to ask, please feel free.
I do have a question. Having been in sales actually myself, I supported sales at Nuance for a while, and there are some sort of intangibles to do with selling that I feel like you might not necessarily be able to automate. Do people bring that up as like, I mean, what percentage of a experienced salesperson are you saying that you're actually automating? Is it
Yeah,
just purely decision making? Is it what part of it that is unique to your top sellers is, I guess, what you're claiming to be
really,
replicating?
really good question. So what we're doing is we're not actually replacing the sales rep. Maybe I should be more clear about that. What we're doing is we're giving every rep a tool that they get to take with them wherever they are meeting with their customer. And what that tool will let them do is, can you see this? So you don't
Yeah,
have to necessarily memorize every new update and piece of content.
I
That's
see.
a really simple kind of win for all reps. And then it's still at the rep's discretion whether they want to give this answer or not. Because to your point, every scenario might be a little bit different. But
Hmm.
where the real value comes in for the top reps, you don't necessarily want to change what they're probably doing too much.
Hmm.
It's to try and bring what they're doing into the other 90% that aren't top reps.
Yeah.
And so they get to kind of save some time by saying, I don't have to do that role play call anymore. I don't have to spend time teaching as much unless they really love to do it, then go for it. Does that answer your question, Lisa?
Yeah, I guess how I'm just curious, like how much of the top reps' knowledge and decision making are you transferring over, versus is there something else that these top reps are doing other than purely the flow of the conversation or the interaction, that is causing them to be so successful?
Yeah, that is a good question. So it is more than just the conversation, right? A lot of it goes into the preparing as well. But
Okay.
the nice thing is that it's all somewhere in a digital form, usually a CRM or their conversations. So because we kind of will sit with those top reps everywhere they go,
Hmm.
we get to see all of that. And I mean, I think right now it's like 40% of all sales interactions are virtual. So it's nice for us to kind of sit side by side with them and see what they're doing a little bit more.
Okay. So you're encapsulating more than just the question answering and the flow back and forth of the sales itself. It's also other data that's being captured in the CRM. Okay, great.
Cool. Any other questions? Or we can keep chugging along.
I also have a question. So, in other words, you give reps real-time coaching inside every sales call, right? I'm
Yes.
wondering, from what you have seen so far, who feels the pain more? The VP sales who wants higher win rates and faster maybe ramp, or the reps who feel pressure in the moment? And depending on the answer, do you sell top down to leadership, or do you try to win rep first and then expand inside the company?
Yeah, really good question. So it's actually trying to do both at the same time. Right now, all the success is a top-down approach, just because there's a huge cost in the enablement and the burden, right, that comes with having to hire salespeople. Salespeople leave, I think, on average every 2 years, right? And after you've enabled someone for 6 to 9 months, you start measuring the sales clock, so to speak. And if your average deal cycle is 12 months, that means you'll have invested upwards of, 18 to 24 months into someone before you figure out they're not good. Or if you can figure that out earlier, that's helpful because then you're going to invest more in them. Or if it's not right for them, then you can also figure out something that's fair. Does that answer your question?
Yes, you do. Thank you.
Yeah. And kind of speaking from personal experience, I can say being a rep is not easy. So a lot of it is based on kind of the experience I've had, as well as that just knowing the other people who are going through it. You might imagine really big companies, they push out new pieces of content, more content than a rep can read if they had 100 hours in a day. So just trying to stay on top of everything, on top of the having to enter everything into the CRMs or all the follow-ups, it is tough for a rep. And so the idea is to make it easier, their lives easier. But
cool. Thanks. Good luck with that.
Yeah, I know. So, and just to kind of set the stage a little bit on like this market, conversation intelligence, if you're familiar, and then sales enablement software, it's already, and this is like the most conservative number I could find, it's already at $7.5 billion, and it's expected to grow quite rapidly to $18 billion over the next couple of years. So what we want to do, or what we're doing is we're going to, because there is already an existing market in that conversation intelligence, which is post-conversation analysis, we want to give away that part away for free to small teams. One, because it gives them an alternative as people start to adopt this type of tool or continue to adopt this tool, to start with us. And we get to give it away in a novel way because of how we're doing things, that it's at a pretty low cost to us as well, because we can almost do a lot of what the competitors are doing on someone's desktop, and it helps keep our costs down. Then move into paid with the real-time portion, and eventually get to full enterprises. And this is really, the ideal is to get to really big sales teams. And that's because I'm just fortunate to have an existing relationship with quite a few of those AI ML type implementations and sales departments at 10 or so of the Fortune 100 companies. And it always comes up. So I want to talk about it because we're giving something away. There's already an existing market. What is everyone else doing? Generally, they're all post-conversation analysis. Conversation intelligence tools say, Wally, you had a call with Lando. You should have let Lando talk more. Let Lando talk more next time. Something along those lines. But the issue with that is that I've already messed up with Lando. So maybe next time I talk to Mateo or Lisa, I can try to do better. But for every call that I have, that's another review that I need to do, to where I'm constantly having to have more enablement for every single call that I have. And so what we're really trying to do is move away from that paradigm to say, Wally, stop talking right now, let Lando talk, or let Mateo talk, let Lisa talk, and assist in that real time and remove all those I'll get back to yous. So you don't need to spend 30 minutes reviewing every call after you've had a 30-minute call. That makes sense?
It does. It's very cool.
Yeah. And so...
Yeah, and I think it removes a lot of, we also had a ton of sales training, just general sales training. I think it removes the need for a lot of that. Like you'd probably be able to shorten your training time up front by quite a bit by having this real-time feedback.
Yeah, that's the idea. So thank you. I know we're a little short on time. I want to be mindful. I can talk the secret sauce and why we're different, who the company is, where we're at, our plan, stuff like that. Well, I kind of will pause there and turn it over to you guys. How about that?
Matteo, you have a question?
Yeah, it's related to how you build the know-how that is needed for the new sales rep to catch up with his peers.
Sure. Yeah. So then we could talk secret sauce. It makes sense. This talks about everyone else does RAG, if you're familiar with kind of the AI world. RAG is a little too slow, and it's a little too inaccurate. So what we do is we sit on top of all those existing recordings, CRMs, whatever it might be, sales collateral that you have, and I call it drag, to where rather than just create a textbook for an AI to go find answers, it's a little more like scenario planning to where we pre-create all the answers that could kind of possibly happen in a call given the context. So we just kind of crawl through everything that's available, is a simple way to say it. And rather than when a question comes up, giving an AI, an open book test to go find an answer, which is a little too slow and it's still pretty costly to do that. What we do is we kind of let the AI see the question before, like the night before the test happens. So it's already there, and if it has to change like a variable in a question, it's a lot faster rather than having to go find the answer from scratch. I'm trying to be quick about it. Does that answer your question at all? It's really just sitting on top of all of the existing CRM, conversation data, and sales collateral that you already have kind of predefined somewhere else.
Wally, let me be super transparent.
Yeah.
I did not understand how you handle it. I was listening carefully, but still I didn't get it. I mean, I don't imagine an AI having in mind to whom you are talking, especially if it's a new lead, and knowing the pain points of the person who is on the other side of the phone or on the other side of the screen. So I'm happy that I don't see it, because it means that you are doing something that I don't know, which is fantastic. Happy to learn more, and then we'll do my homework next time.
Maybe how I kind of could describe it is if salespeople don't invent anything, okay? If your salesperson is inventing something, he's probably a bad salesperson. Everything that a salesperson is allowed to do has been told to them at some point. They don't invent the product. They only apply the company's knowledge to a customer. And they present it in new ways.
I disagree, because it's an emotional activity to sell. So it's not just copy pasting the script. So
yeah,
I disagree.
Yeah,
There
that's
is
the
emotion inside
intangible
sales.
piece.
Sure.
Yeah, there's the intangible piece of it. So I do think that is something that can't be captured and is not that easy to teach. So
Yes.
If I may, maybe it's also about I think Wallis is referring to, because I was gasping over, I think I catch some of the things that he wanted to explain, especially with the RAG. I think the point is about also the knowledge. I think he's talking about the knowledge.
Yeah.
You
So
don't
I'm
invent
not talking about the
anything.
emotional piece. I'm not talking about the selling aspect. I'm talking about the what you're selling aspect.
Oh, okay.
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 So we don't replace that emotional intangible piece, because that's right. That is kind of the art of the sale. And there's no taking that away today. But the idea is really make that seller focused on that intangible piece, where it's I get to know Matteo and I get to know Lisa and their personal pain points, their personal problems, rather than what is my product going to do to fix that. And so we don't try to recreate any of the intangible pieces, so to speak. What we try to do is we try to help them prepare and focus on those intangibles by not having to think about what is my company's newest product feature and update. Does that make sense?
I see. So you're just changing the time spent by the salesperson. You're saying you're reducing the amount of time that they have to spend learning about the products and the generic sales pitch about what the product does and how it works, so they can focus on the human side.
Exactly. So get past
And also the top salespeople don't have to babysit them on the calls. Okay.
Exactly. So let's get past all those checkbox questions really quickly, right? This is how I would say it. And then, sorry, does that clarify at all, Matteo, what we kind of do?
It's super clear. Please go ahead, Wally. My doubt still stays as you have the sales guideline in every medium to big firm, at least.
Yeah.
So a sales rep needs to be equipped with these sales guidelines, and in the sales guideline, you should have all the questions, all the counter that you might be facing. As far as I'm concerned, and Of course, I didn't see them all, but there are a lot of sales guidelines, and usually within a sales guideline, you have the product description, and you have all the answers that you should ask, and you have all the answers to the counters that you receive. If it's done properly, and if it's a made in business, and your go-to-market shows that you would like to address this market. That's why I was mentioning what is existing now. But I mean, I don't want to say that you're wrong, Wally. Just my 2 cents, and probably you're doing well, and this is gonna work. So
Yeah, no, no, and I think you're not incorrect, right? The issue is more, how does the rep absorb all that knowledge rather than just regurgitate the information
well,
and
it's
have,
learning
yeah,
and
so
commitment.
yeah, exactly, right. And you're right, but from a time in the day perspective, do you want them learning for 6 months or do you want them selling for 6 months?
They should be able to learn in 1 month, not in 6.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So that's the idea, right? So we want them to learn in 1 month. And right now it's just the average onboarding is 6 to 9.
I see. Fair enough.
So that's the idea. I mean, you're not wrong by any means. And it's also just how quickly can you update that content? Do you need an all hands call? How do you even as a manager collect that content again? How do you know what is the objection statements or what if happens when there's a new objection statement? Should I wait 6 months until I have all that information, or should what would it do value-wise for a company if I can take that brand new objection, paste it into a deal that's happening right now, so my rep knows how to handle it, and it usually in the B2B sense, like if I can win one more deal a year, that's pretty valuable. So that's the idea. But yes, okay. So
it will work. You definitely have room for business, and AI will be used for that. So you're definitely doing the right things. My 2 cents are carefully check how you said it.
yeah, no, I can change the messaging a bit. I think that's good feedback. Okay, good. So, I mean, I have more slides. I can tell you kind of just where we're at as a company is we just kicked off our very first pilot. So we don't have, like, to your point, Matteo, right, the objective sales material. We're not even at a public MVP stage or anything like that. We're kind of in that phase of raising and building at the same time our pre-seed round to where, can I jump ahead a bit just to show you guys, and maybe it's useful to show other startups. We kicked off our very first pilot like a week or two ago, have the next 2 or 3 lined up. And some of them are paid, some of them are discounted, whatever it might be. But our goal is really, we're raising money now to eventually get to a much larger type, to get to where we need to be really, and to run faster. So we're just trying to raise $1 million in a pre-seed right now to mostly spend all towards development, and that's kind of the use of funds. Just kicked off our first trial, have like another 1 or 2 lined up, and go from there. So, I think just kind of how we even got to this idea is because other people experience this pain. That's kind of what we're trying to solve for. We're really trying to solve for a problem and a pain, and that's why we're kind of fortunate to have it not be too hard to find pilot customers and even real customers one day. And so rather than wait to do a big round in funding, we wanted to just accelerate that a little bit to get to more developers, getting to more paid customers more quickly. Does that make sense? I know this is a lot. I want to be mindful of time.
Yeah, that's useful. I think what will help you here is having, once you have that pilot data, to show the time savings and the impact, right? As a designer, I always look like which exactly what you've done, which is like, what is the customer problem we're trying to solve, right? We're trying to solve this terrible pain point where a lot of time is wasted, and we're trying to create efficiency. And so once you have some data to show that you've actually done that with a pilot customer, I think this story will be more compelling.
Yeah, that's what we're excited for it. You're exactly right. Yes. Cool. Any other questions?
When you were showing this rug versus your version of rug, this drug you were talking about,
Yes.
kind of had a feeling of where you want to go. Aren't you afraid that having that approach where you don't have a classical rug, but instead you need a technology where, as you said, is about adding some sort of use cases, user stories behind. So you need some extra knowledge needs to be put into this RAG. It's not just a database that you have to access, but there is some sort of meta information that goes into it. Aren't you afraid that this will somehow increase the onboarding, the complexity of the onboarding phase? Because if the onboarding, in this case, for this kind of technologies, where the onboarding is complex, people will opt out. So that's a risk. Did you think about it? Or maybe I'm not seeing this correctly and the onboarding is smooth. But with the RAG, you give the documents, usually with these new technologies, you give a bunch of documents to the tool that is in charge of creating the database, and then everything works right out of the box. Is this your case?
Yeah, and it's really, really good question. It's not too different than the actual onboarding of a RAG. So not too concerned with it because it is mostly the same information. It's in the processing of that information and the application that's a little different. So there is still a level of sophistication that the customer needs from a data perspective, and that you do need a CRM, right? You do need some levels of technologies that are already there because that's what we have to go sit on top of. The more you have, the better. Now, the maybe to your point, right, it's also on us to have more integrations at a certain point, but they're really just data source integrations. They're not too different from what do we have to do to train a model.
Okay, I have to believe you that this is not exactly a RAG.
Yeah.
I believe that it's something more. I hope it is.
Yeah.
But yeah, you got my point.
Yeah, and there is a RAG. It's kind of I call it double RAG. It's what the D stands for. There's a RAG up front, and then there's like a RAG again, and we have a traditional RAG as a fallback in case ours doesn't work. So there is RAG involved, but it's in what we're using the initial RAG for is in the pre-processing of information, not necessarily in asking that question up front. Is there a question?
Kind of, but of course, as a data scientist, I will probably spend a couple of days talking about this. But it's definitely enough, and thanks also for kind of getting this feedback. Maybe Matteo and Lando, they have a follow-up question or one last question.
Alessandro, more than questions, I have suggestions.
Sure.
Vali, your storytelling, I don't want to say that is lacking something, but I don't find a different wording. So I need to be gentle. So let me be gentle. Now, you told us that you want to raise 1 million, that you want to give a post-money valuation 10 million, that you are doing that by SAFE, that you raise first 200K, then 1 million, then 5 to 7 to launch the platform, in the middle 2.3. It's a long journey, and that you collapse it within a 10 million post money or within a SAFE, which is a vehicle. Then you're talking about small, medium businesses, but in the bracket from 1 million to 2 to 3 million, we have large telco, which are multinational companies. So there are some details that make the story at least not wall proven.
Yeah.
So focus on how you build the story, and then how you build the storytelling, and step by step. It's good that you have a fundraising strategy, that you see the long term, nevertheless, precise milestone, prepared to have counters to how you protect yourself, because you're talking about LLMs, which is OpenAI, whatsoever, the peers of OpenAI. Barely think you have something that you can protect under an IP perspective. You need to juggle the matter a little bit more before sitting in front of someone that is there to give you money, especially if he's someone that knows a little bit what he's doing. Okay. Angel investing, the 200K, you might be capable of raising it because you say, hey guys, I have the secret sauce to make companies save millions on how they train their sales rep, and they are just going to have stars and Cristiano Ronaldo selling for them. That's something you can do, but then you need to build. My suggestion is sit down, read your script, edit it, have a lot of discussion with like-minded people, and find the right solution to raise these funds that will help you build the company that you have in mind.
Okay. Well, I appreciate the feedback. Thank you very much, Mateo.
Anytime.
All right. Thank you. This was very exciting. I mean, we had two different business use cases, and for two different reasons. They were both super interesting. In one case, we were talking about something that unfortunately, Matteo, you missed, but was really looking into the future. And the second one, thanks to also Lisa's, Lando's, and Matteo's feedback, it was a great discussion. And for me, it was really exciting to be part of it. I'm a technical person, so it doesn't really happen often that I have to, that I talk to people so close to the investors, to the to the startup world. I loved it.